using experience working with Business Central, previously NAV, and today we're going to be working with a functionality that we're going to review for inventory operation in Business Central. We may tend to think that inventory is about how much inventory I have in any warehouse on hand. Well, that's maybe just 10% of the puzzle. So what we're going to be reviewing today is actually the basic understanding of the general structure, so we can actually do it properly and review what the system has to offer, and maybe you can actually just work with this new information for your own on a regular basis on the warehouse, if you have a POS, if you have purchase and sales operations, etc. So well, the idea of the inventory management, like we have here in the introduction, it's all about specifying size and placement of stocking goods. It's required to have different locations. We're going to understand how to create a network of location for the regular supply chain, satisfy the demand to avoid running out of inventory. And as well, you need to carry the cost, inventory forecasting as well. It's important for us. We're going to show some tools also. So the idea is that providing all the tools for inventory operations, not specifically create an item or purchase and see how it is in a warehouse, but you need a full understanding of how to get the inventory value, how to know the availability. I don't know if you have also FedEx suppliers apart from your internal logistics. Well, where is the package at some point? If you have internal logistics, where is my inventory currently? Okay, so those ideas will be then helping us in order to then understand more about Business Central and inventory functionality. In the first part, we're going to just review the introduction to inventory management, and then we're going to check a second part for just transactions, just standard transactions. I'm gonna check it that way, but that are not easily understood in the first time, and you might need then just a review of this very important type of transactions. Okay, so for us, what we're gonna check in the first part. For inventory, we need to review the structure. We're going to create your locations. We need to understand the concept for stock-keeping units, responsibility centers, and transfer routes. I'm going to explain how then this is done, how or why we are going to check on specifically these type of configurations. And all of this is going to help you to work, as you can see in this figure. We have the inventory management system with different type of workflows or processes where inventory will be then necessary to review, from creation of orders, warehouses, if you have a POS, if you want to forecast, if you want to create your reports, multi-channel, inventory, all of these different channels from whatever you are actually using, the functionality Business Central, well, all of these will be then require a specific structure to analyze properly your inventory, and you need to actually understand all these concepts. So let's then just explain this. I never explain my webinars like for advanced users, right? This is for us an understanding of the actual logic behind the criteria for your software. Then later configurations will be coming, and at last but not least, some exercises. So the first thing to understand is allocation. Well, it's a container of inventory. You can receive product into the location you can ship. So allocation is a warehouse, a physical location, or could be as well a truck. So the idea is that everything where any place where you are stocking your inventory, we need to actually set it up in the system, either because you use it as well for stocking or as well for transport your actual inventory. So location Then at the end is warehouse 1, warehouse 2, store 1, store 2, truck 1, truck 2, etc., etc. Okay, so that's the main idea for the locations. And then we have the concept of the SKU. When we need to create an item, we might have different stocking requirements in different places. So let's say that in my main warehouse, I would be purchasing pallets, right? But in my stores, as an example, for those of you who work with retail, you might have other units of measure when you normally do not sell, of course, pallets, but in every store you only sell maybe packages, boxes, or most of the time units. So in order to specify an SKU, also we have a barcode. We're going to scan the items, then later after scanning the item, that is going to give us information about the size, about the place where you are actually handling a specific item. So maybe the SKU is going to tell us, hey, in my main warehouse, I'm only going to handle this item this way. But if you transfer the item, Business Central is going to tell you, but in order to transfer, you need to maybe break the bulk and transfer to be able to transfer and then sell an item. So an SKU is attached to an item to give us more information about the specific stocking location and the actual features for the unit of measure, the actual size maybe, and as well, well, that will be important then to know when we run with the specific inventory transactions, how to move my item properly. Very important then. Okay, the next concept is the responsibility center. A responsibility center is an extended functionality to try to organize the company, okay? Let's consider that your company might have different divisions, or you would like to have different divisions among your company. This is among one single legal entity, because as well divisional information could be considered for geographical areas in different countries, but as well for different type of brands, but maybe a legal entity could have 2 or 3 brands, etc. No. In this case, responsibility centers are more tied to inventory transactions. So maybe I would like to consider that I would have in Mexico, one of my branches have different stores. So we have the responsibility center in Mexico, but as well, maybe my company is in the Caribbean. Okay, so the same company have different responsibility centers. My inventory is being moved from Mexico and exported to the Caribbean, but those same products, same legal entity, same company, same chart of accounts would like to be divided by a specific criteria. In this case, could be different offices, sales or purchasing departments, something that you consider that is critical to be analyzed. So you can slice the company information into responsibility centers. So in order to understand a responsibility center more properly, the technical actual analysis is in order to prepare your company to analyze return on investment. So you might have different type of analysis for the company. And of course, we can calculate the ROI for the entire company, but what if you want to slice and dice the company in different components like offices, like regions or something else, and you can then analyze the return on the investment of every branch. Then we have the cost center. A cost center as well is a responsibility center, but it's normally used when you, for instance, want to slice and dice information for internal departments in your company. As an example, we will require then sometimes analysis to understand the manufacturing department, to review the costs in the manufacturing, or in a supermarket, we have the deli, but we have the meat, we have produce departments. So those are cost centers, and we are going to report costs only. Then, what happens when we have different divisions for the sales department. So we might have different products or different type of products. One would be maybe some companies have specific type of stores, right, that are dedicated to specific products, and they have their own profit. So you move inventory, and a specific inventory will be moved to specific profit centers. That at the end are a cluster of different operational areas where you are actually selling. It could be a POS, or either it could be another warehouse, but for specific criteria related to as well inventory, you need to divide your company in different type of branches for profit analysis. And then of course we have, well, the most natural way of understanding the revenue centers. Well, most of us will have the sales report divided by specific logic units or criteria for maybe even persons. Well, a person is not a responsibility center, but why not if you have specific segments and your salespeople is dedicated for specific types of sales operations. It could be retail and wholesaling as an example. Or if you are with other type of criteria, well, like CRM, well, different type of events, different type of offers, programs are being held in a company in order to make sales operations with a specific type of most advanced criteria, like creating campaigns or specific projects for your sales operations. Well, why not to create a project where I can analyze all of this, okay? So I would need to create a responsibility center for a project for specific customers or even users. Let's try to then figure out how we do that and how we could take advantage of all of this. Then we're gonna get to the concept of transfer routes, very important for our inventory process. We might have different warehouses, trucks, and stores in our network for a specific company. Then, for us, it's very important to then specify how we actually create for transferring our inventory. We need to specify to business central transfer routes. Why? Specifically because we are going to work with a main warehouse most of the time, where we are going to be transferring to another B warehouse or C warehouse, where you have manufacturing, and then you transfer to a selling warehouse or distribution warehouse or your stores, or maybe you are just actually having one single warehouse, but you use internal logistics and you have trucks in order to actually move your inventory, right? Well, those are actually the routes. We are not actually specifying the logistic type of route where we are going to be following the time, the specific GPS application tied to a mobile device. So we are going to be tracking your location. That's not the type of route we are talking about. We just need to specify from where to where we'll be actually moving our inventory to then later Business Central understand where you purchase, and from the actual purchase location, how then you actually transfer. And then Business Central will understand, well, from my main warehouse, I receive pallets, but then I transfer and I need to break the bulk to transfer units. But as well, in some places, I will be using internal logistics. But for one specific store, I would need to hire a vendor for logistics, like in this specific example, we have FedEx. So from my main warehouse to some locations, I will be transferring with trucks. To some other locations, well, I actually just sell. And to other locations, I also transfer, but with outsourced logistics. And for all of this, we need to know where my inventory is. So in order to begin, we need to understand these basic concepts that are in place, and we are going to review now in Business Central actually how we actually work with them, how we set it up, and how they work together. So after that, I'm going to come back with the actual inventory transactions because we are going to review, well, where is my inventory, my availability, how do I use the identifiers or barcodes, and then try to understand how to physical count or cycle count, item adjustments, how to evaluate your inventory, because you need the value in every location sometimes if you are working in a multi-site environment. So at the end, item reclassification, because we understand that sometimes we have errors. Maybe while we purchase, we might purchase with the wrong cost or wrong unit of measure, wrong barcode, or we don't need to delete or reverse any specific transaction, but just correct specific data. So that's why we use the item reclassification transaction. Okay, coming back then, we are going to switch now to the application in order to then work with the actual process. So in order to begin, I'm going to just open Business Central. Very well. For Business Central, I'm having today the Kronos USA company. For me, the process of creating my inventory operation, the network, and the location is going to be started with the first unit of the specific, the first configuration we're going to review will be the most important and the actual location procedure. In every company, you need to understand what you have and the configurations you have behind every warehouse. Okay, in order to begin, well, you understand that allocation is a physical place. So here I have the East, the main warehouse, and then here I have outsourced logistics and own logistics. These are not actual warehouses. These are virtual warehouses where I actually need to know at some point if my inventory is in transit. Well, where is it? Okay, so I need to actually just measure at any point, I need to know where my actual items are. And then, well, I have WMS type of warehouses. Let's try to take a look at, and try to, why not to even set up a new location. Okay, so it will be then important, first of all, just to review my main warehouse, just to analyze the information. Okay, every time we have a location card, we just need a name. In this case, it's the main warehouse. This could be the central, etc. Okay, so we need a code, and in my example, I might have colors, I might have the name of a specific street, or warehouse 1, warehouse 2, and then the name. It is very important then to add the actual address, because this information will be included in your actual documents for the shippings, or even for specific invoices sometimes. It depends on the type of transaction, but this information is mandatory to have and a specific contact. So that information could be then held here in my main warehouse. You could call Carol Poland for any doubt about your shipment. So you will need a phone and the actual email. Okay, it's very important to have this type of information. Okay, then for us, once this is created, I'm not going to go in depth of design because the idea of the different flavors of warehousing is very important, but we have a module specifically to understand and analyze warehousing activities. Just to have an understanding the flavors, we might have a black box as a location where we don't need zones, shelves, or anything complexity. It's just about knowing how many units I have. So basically, that's what we call the most basic type of warehousing. But then also in the process, we're going to need sometimes to create a reception document, a shipment, a put away. And well, for this type of operations, we are going to then have different setups. So for us, it's just only about for the basic type of location understanding and to create an actual network. We're going to need then to review how do we make allocation mandatory for your transactions. It could happen, yes, in Business Central, that sometimes you could create a transaction that is not going to be including the actual warehouse. You might have sometimes gaps when you have reports, when you have or availability analysis. Well, so for us, you can specify then that your location will be mandatory. And this is for every transaction. If we have a purchase or a transfer or an adjustment that doesn't have a warehouse included, well, you are not going to be able to work with it. And this is as well very important because we're going to be then later costing the actual items. So if we are going to be actually doing so, it's strongly recommended to have a location mandatory because guess what? Your items don't also have the same value in the different geographical areas. So sometimes you have customs, sometimes you have insurance, other freight services, and those are actually requirements to actually cost. And then, well, by the specific distance, in this case, well, the cost will be increased. And by the specific legal procedures to have specific inventory stock in the different places. Okay, so this is very important. Now, I'm going to go then and specify, you sometimes will be needing a specific warehouse suggested by the system. Let's call it that way. And if you can see, I have a setup that is called company information. Okay, so for me, I'm having here the Kronos company. And for me, I have, of course, all the general information. I'm in the USA and I have in this specific address for my company. But here, even though I have my address, I would like to, whenever a person is actually working with an inventory transaction, the main warehouse is being suggested. So the actual user would need to, if he forgets something, well, we have the location the location code suggested by the system. Okay. As well, well, you could, like I said, the responsibility center could be for a specific company at type 2. In this case, I mean the Atlanta state as an example, right? So you could create for your company different responsibility centers, and you could actually specify which brand you are actually selling. Then I'm going to explain you how do actually we work with all of this. But for now, I'm just specifying the actual main warehouse that should be actually mandatory, and I specifying that in the company information I have a central warehouse, which is the main warehouse. Okay, but not only there, we are actually gonna work with some other setups that will be very important, specifically because we're gonna be working with inventory, and we sometimes when we purchase need to not specify maybe the actual location of the company. For instance, here I have the vendor card. This is the vendor Fabricant 1000. And well, I have some information about this specific vendor, a contact picture. Here you could have the company logo of your vendor, or well, here I have just a contact person. But most importantly for inventory, in my location receiving area, a specific field in the receiving tab, I have as well a location, and you could include another location, in this case, the East Warehouse, because if I purchase from this vendor that is also located in Atlanta, but in this case, well, I have another warehouse that is from where I can actually receive the purchase that I actually need to receive, and then later transfer from the specific warehouse to another locations. So another area is the actual location code that will be, if we purchase from this vendor, well, the purchase order will be suggesting this location, which is the East code. The same happens with the customer. It's just exactly the same, but when we are actually just selling, well, the idea is that we are going to be having a suggested location from where we are going to be shipping a specific package or our stock when we sell it. And here we have as well the same field for shipping procedures in the customer card. We have the Adatum Corporation. This is one of my customers that is in Atlanta. Here we have the zip code, and in this specific area, I have my main warehouse as well. So from here, we're going to be delivering. It's very important that specifically you need to you create all your locations, make them attached to a specific customer or a specific vendor, and as well we have the same concept for the item card. Just in case a specific item necessarily has got to be shipped from a specific warehouse. The same idea is if I open the item card, I'm going to be able to just look at the shipping process. It is not a mandatory, but it's a good suggestion for your people so they can actually improve the actual inventory network. So it's a good idea then to try to work with that as well. Then I'm gonna go, after I have my locations, it is very, very important to work with what we call the actual network in your items. Let me just actually open the item catalog. We're gonna go with the concept of an SKU process. So once I have my locations created, what I'm gonna do now is actually just open an item from where I'm gonna be selecting specific locations where I'm going to stock, and I'm gonna be stocking my items. So let me just review one of the items that could have a stock keeping units. Remember that in a previous. Okay, this is an Atlanta desk. Okay, so after I have specified my warehouses, you need to tell Business Central information of the actual requirement for moving and to stock inventory. So what I'm going to do is actually just do that, and this is going to be working for replenishment as well, and as well for identification of the actual items and how you actually stock, move, which unit of measures are required for every transfer route. If you are moving for the actual central warehouse to the stores or something like that, well, let's take a look at the item list. My item list is here, okay? Just to have a brief explanation, I have one of my items, and of course, do not forget, we always give some insights. You need to understand anything about inventory, literally. We're gonna go through that with the time. And first of all, the item card. We have three types of item: inventory, service, non-inventory. Okay, this is as well important for you if you are going to work with inventory. Inventory, a type of item, is just an item that we create that will be stocked in the warehouses. Then we have the service type of item. Well, it's the same, but the idea is that the only difference is that we are not going to be using this only for labor, but we are going to be counting, instead of units, will be hours. And we are not going to be physically counting the item. We're not going to be able to transfer it. We can actually purchase and sell it. Let's think of consulting procedures. And as well, we're going to present non-inventory. Non-inventory type of item is something that you can actually purchase and sell, but as well, you are not going to be able to count it in your inventory. This might be most of the time related to maybe paper, office supplies like markers, pens, and so on. So as well, you can create that. you are able to purchase and sell all of these items, except that the service and non-inventory are not going to be used for any warehousing or procedures that we are going to review today. We are more related to inventory type of items, okay? This is the item that where we have value, where we need to understand how much at the end, from all the stock that I have in my different warehouses, what will be the value of that actual inventory. Another example, how many units I have in every warehouse, so we are going to count it. Another one, it's very important for me to understand the unit of measures. How are we going to be then using to break the bulk, how many units a pallet has, etc., etc., etc. So I just wanted to mention this because it will be then important to classify what type of items we are going to be working for this webinar. And then once we have this, the specific idea of the SKU that only applies to inventory type of items is like this. For me, I'm gonna navigate in the actual item card. In this item card, I have just as well general information, which is an item desk, and I have a great picture here of the actual desk. It's very simple, but here I have some item attributes. Let's try to understand how we work. This is not going to define an SKU, but nevertheless could be. The item attribute is something that you will be using maybe for search or for reporting purposes. The item attributes will be the color, the depth, the brand, maybe. In this case, I have measurements and material as an example, right? So most of the time, an SKU doesn't tell you necessarily what would be, for instance, the nutritional facts of an item, or in this case, it's not going to tell you what will be the width for me, okay, or the depth, or the height, or the actual material. Could be, but it will be like quite cumbersome to actually work with SKUs like that. Most of the time, an SKU is a barcode that is going to help you to identify in each warehouse. Well, maybe in the main warehouse, my SKU is going to tell me how do I actually handle this item. Maybe I assemble this item and I need to purchase the pieces, and maybe the pieces will be coming in boxes, and then after assembly I can specify that I transfer, but the actual finished product, that is a unit, that will be a desk. In my example, I could have bill of materials, cost of shares, assembly, or even manufacturing. So there are a lot of different types of features that could be tied to every item. We're going to then understand how the actual SKU works, because we could have plenty of information like bill of materials, the structure, the cost shares, the item attributes, and then we're going to filter all of this information into how do we actually work with an SKU. So the item attribute, just to mention it, well, you can create that, because this is only informational, very, very important. This is not SKU. You can create your attributes however you want to use them, the brand, the model, the submodel, what it contains. This is descriptive, this is informational for you, because guess what? We have an engine either in Business Central or in the POS, where you are actually going to be able to create reports and even to find items by any attribute. So I want to have furniture from the 2020 model for a specific brand. Well, those are attributes. And then Business Central is going to give you that search, even in Power BI. So attributes are used as features that are informational. And if we talk about food, will be the calories, will be the amount of a specific chemical that you have for a specific food or something like that, right? Now, I was talking about as well the actual, and this is maybe quite basic for many of you, I understand that, but just to be able to understand a SKU, I need to explain this because we could get confused easily. In this case, we have a bill of materials. This is just a list where I will require maybe to assembly in order, just the assembly parts used in order to have this final table. Well, that's a bill of materials. For me, it's more important now to then, once I understand the basics, well, just to create what I call the actual stock keeping unit. Let's try to actually review if this item has it or I'm going to create. It doesn't have currently any stock keeping unit, but at the end, I want something. I want to create a stock keeping unit. You have a function that is tied to your actual it's a function that you have in your item, and I want to tell the system, look, I want to actually handle this table, and I want to actually purchase only in the main warehouse. Then later I'm going to transfer it to different locations, stores, as an example. Okay, and you could actually tell the system how many units you have. For this concept of the SKU, the most important to understand the actual real usage of an SKU, and remember that it's an identifier that you actually just scan. Okay, so in order to do so, we're gonna need to use a unit of measure and a cross-reference. I'm gonna explain this concept. The unit of measure, of course, well, in this case, I have this regular item. This is a desk that currently has one piece. So that's how I purchase, and that's how I sell, and that's how I transfer. Normally, that's not correct. Normally, what I would need to do is maybe use another unit of measure to actually purchase and then stock in only the main warehouse. So in this case, if I purchase a pallet, maybe this is assembly type of item. So I will be receiving boxes with the actual spare parts and the assembly parts, and then I will be having a finished product. But anyway, whenever I purchase, I will buy a pallet that will be including 10 tables, by the way. 10 tables. Okay, so I have one piece that will be the base unit of measure. Don't forget the concept base unit of measure, because your reports, the value will be, and the purchase will be broken down into the unit always. Now, the pallet will be containing 10 of them. If I purchase a pallet, then normally I will be having 10 times the value of the unit, or normally as well a special price if I purchase a pallet. Now we have other concepts like the cubage, the height, the width, length. These are only applicable if you have WMS. Like in this case, well, I have one specific measurement that will be to understand the weight. Maybe in my actual warehouse, I need to all the time scale my item because I have a specific capacity based on the weight. Or as well, the cubage, which will be volume, height, width, length will be related just to have the actual measurements, okay? Very well. Just to have the concept, this is very, very important to define your SKU. First of all comes the unit of measure. But then later, why not to specify where do I purchase, where do I transfer, and well, how do I manage those units of measures, and how this is how we then would complete the concept for the stock keeping unit. Okay, people, so I just want to use one function. Once you understand the basics, well, we have the create stock keeping unit function. If I once again come into the navigation and then to the actions section, I have a menu that is called functions, where you are going to be then creating your stock keeping units. It's very important for your company if you later want to go to replenishment procedures, if you want to actually work with LS retail, very, very important, and if you actually want to properly use your inventory management. Okay, so allocation unit will be created based on allocation in first place to make it simple for the first time, and only for items that could be in inventory, right? That will be important, and maybe you have previous SKUs created. For now, we are not going to touch this. Only I will be creating an SKU per location. Okay, I want to use, like I said, my specific main warehouse, because here is where I actually purchase. So what I'm going to tell Business Central is create a stock keeping unit because I'm going to purchase in my main warehouse this item. Okay, and this is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to click on OK, and then the stock keeping unit will be created for me behind the scene. And here I'm going to open it. You can review the warehousing information for every item. You can see that I have a lot of menus that we are going to be learning for our procedures one by one. The second one after creating a stockkeeping unit is the warehousing menu. Here is where I have bin contents only where you have WMS, but for those of you who don't know what WMS is, basically creating special areas and bin content and shelves among a warehouse. There you're going to be measuring inside and you're going to be having the possibility to replenish internally from the reception to the ship base or a picking base area, some other type of procedures. That WMS is with handhelds normally, or at least, well, with just simple scanners. Well, coming back then, leaving the big content functionality for WMS, I'm going to continue with the stockkeeping unit. The stockkeeping unit is going to be held and tied to my actual item. This menu and this form that you are seeing here is the stockkeeping unit card is only applicable for this actual item and in relation to the main warehouse. So what I'm going to do now is tell Business Central, very good. In this actual item, a warehouse, what I'm going to do is the replenish system will be focused on only purchase transactions, okay? So if we later create then the procedures, we're going to be able to automatically purchase, and Business Central knows where the vendor needs to actually ship these items when I purchase. As well, I'm having the reordering policies related to replenishment, where I could say, hey, I need a fixed reorder quantity. I need 25 tables in my main warehouse. Well, actually, it could be, I don't know, 100. Okay, just as an example of the replenishment. But remember, this is not the main feature to be shown today, neither replenishment, but the SKU procedure. The SKU is going to tell me the unit. It's going to tell me how I want to actually use my warehouse for this item, how I actually receive it. It's going to be a purchase, nothing else. But in other cases, if it's applicable for you, if you actually use your replenishment, well, I would like to automatically, only for those of you who want to use replenishment, have the fixed order quantity to be 100 always. As well, I could use maximum, order, or lot for lot. Maximum quantity, well, is quite obvious. Order is, well, only if I sell an item, immediately replenish it. And lot for lot, well, wait a little, let's start selling, and after 2 weeks of our sales operations, review, and then come and purchase the inventory that I need. Okay, so just as an example, but take the idea that the replenishment procedure, remember, this is all about inventory, right? The idea of the replenishing is based on levels, okay? You can see reorder points, minimum, maximum. What else is important here? Well, the demand will be reviewing how many sales orders were placed to then later purchase after either order by order, one-to-one relationship, or lot for lot, a reordering policy for Business Central replenishment is after a while, after 1 to 1 month, well, review the actual items on hand and purchase the necessary amount. Remember, based on levels. So here, everything is specified, but guess what? Once again, everything related to the main warehouse only. Very, very important. After I have understood this part, it's very, as well, important to specify how actually going to be, how am I going to be then actually moving this item. Currently in the main warehouse I have, and we're going to be actually working with some pieces of availability, quantity on hand. This is a variable that you will be having in every location and as well in every stockkeeping unit when you have it. Okay, so you can see, you can open your location, you can open your item, but remember, the first thing to review is a quantity on hand, and this actual figure will be all over the system, in purchases, in sales, in the stock keeping units, in the actual reports. We're gonna check that. Remember that variable is the physical quantity that you have. Okay, so for now, the stock keeping unit is ready, and I have one specific value that will be measured. This is very important because in this specific main warehouse, well, I have had some increase that will be related to purchases and decreases related to sales or transfer operations. And every time I move in my inventory, regardless of the quantity that I move, every unit has a unit, has value. That the value is as well transferred. Okay, first of all, when I purchase my item in the main warehouse, I have one specific unit cost. Okay, let's continue and create another stock keeping unit card because we need to understand this concept very well. It's very important. Now, what I'm going to do is create another stock keeping unit for the same item, which is my desk, but based on location as well, because we are understanding basics, but for another warehouse. The other variable for locations will be by variant, because sometimes I have maybe different styles for my same item desk that will be more expensive, maybe, because they will be not made of wood like I have in my attributes concept, but will be made maybe aluminum. Okay, so well, that will be a variant that we'll need to create. For us is now, let's keep with the creation of stock keeping units for another warehouse, which is the East warehouse. Okay, once again, I need to review my menus and check what happened with the stock keeping units. I have now two, where the first one will be held for main warehouse where I purchased, but then later in the East warehouse, this is stock keeping unit card for the location code East, from where I'm actually going to replenish. Remember that we need this for replenishment, and we have a tab related for my item. But we do not only do everything in a very simplistic way. We are actually complex. The inventory network is complex. So if I want to have inventory in the East warehouse, in this case, I'm going to be transferring the item. Okay, so very, very important. Once I define this, Business Central needs to understand, okay, very good. I'm actually transferring my item, and maybe you could even relate the time. I would need 1 day to transfer from one item to another. But if I'm going to be transferring my item, give me the location from where I should be transferring. Okay. In this case, I have the main warehouse will be the transfer from code. Okay. The code of the location that items are transferred from to the actual location that I present, that will be the East. Okay. So let's get rid of this idea. Once I have the stock keeping units, as well, you could actually type pictures as well, and so on. Okay, but after I review this actual first concept of the stock keeping unit, I need to specify barcodes, okay? Because you might print labels, you might print, you even could use the same barcode or an identifier that comes in the barcode that the specific item has. So before we can move and transfer or purchase our item, we need to as well understand the defaults for inventory transactions. The second part will be identifiers. Let's review this. And for me, I have the following concept. The two main criteria to work with the actual inventory will be the actual identifiers or barcodes, and as well, how I'm going to be using. If you can see, my item is a 1896-S, attendance desk. Okay, that's the actual number that you as well in your company has for all your item catalogs. You have a number, right? Internal number, but that's not enough to handle inventory. So what I'm going to do is represent whenever I purchase something, you know where I purchase it is in the main warehouse. Now I'm going to need to specify, well, the vendor item number. So that's very important because in the purchase order, your vendor is gonna come with you, but you don't. Your vendors do not have your actual inventory a catalog. They don't know your numbers. So the idea is that I'm gonna purchase this item from fabricant vendor. I have opened the item cross-reference entries, and here is where I will be placing a number that actually when the actual vendor comes and is shipping and I receive the actual shipment, well, I need the actual number from the item that the vendor is providing me. This could be the item, or the table, the 00023 from Michael Jordan. Okay, the table, number 23 because of Michael Jordan, then actually is the vendor item number, it's not mine. Okay, I don't even know anything about assembly, or I don't know anything about Michael Jordan or basketball or nothing. I don't know why this number was like that. The only identifier I know in my company is 1896-S. But the cross reference for the vendor will be table 00023. Okay, now if you remember, I purchased in pallets. So if you use a scanner, when I purchase well, either you could scan this number, and well, this will be tied to this unit of measure. Only if I purchase from this vendor. Very, very important. Another vendor could provide you the same functionality, but as well, just in case, well, as well, sometimes I will need to buy from another vendor the same item, but in this case, I import the same item. I normally buy locally, but for me, I need sometimes to import because this item is very important for me and I need to have it yes or yes. So even I could import it. But for these people, the same item could be a name with another type of identifier. So in this case will be the desk dash 00 dash 40 like that. Okay, just another number. And guess what? They are also selling pallets. But when the vendor arrives, well, you're going to be using this specific cross-reference. This is how we call it in Business Central. Okay. Now, same concept will be the idea, but for a customer. Okay. I'm selecting now the customer type of cross-references, and I'm going to select a customer, just a random one. But in this case, a customer also knows my item and he does never order, hey, I want your 1896-S Athens desk. They have created another number. So they just call maybe the same item Athens, something like that, and they might have another type of identifier, but they don't even buy pallets, they buy pizzas. So this will be retail customer and wholesale purchase and something like that, Athens. So we are going to be adding your descriptions to the actual, and this is information that will be printed and will be used with your SKUs. Most importantly then, what happened with the actual information that is in the actual item? I have a barcode, okay? I don't care how the vendor or the customer call this item. I do everything, or all my operations are simply based on the barcode that is printed in the actual item. No problem. Well, we can specify maybe your EAN or EAN 13 or something like that, your actual barcode that is in here, and this will be used for pallets, but as well we have another barcode that will be held for another type of unit to measure as well, quite similar, but at the end will be just used for pieces. Okay, hopefully you can get the idea. This is very, very important. This is as well important to identify the type of item for your reports. You cannot go and just create an item, start moving it all around the company, because at the end you're not gonna get the actual value of what you actually will need, which at the end is the actual report by unit of measure, the actual procedures to purchase according to the actual numbers from your vendors, and sell and give them the actual value so you can sell using your customer numbers. So basically that's it. For me, these are just the basics of the inventory procedures, and I'm just explaining the reason behind all these specific requests, right? Now, I need to understand now the availability, okay? Because we're gonna now purchase and transfer, okay? But before doing anything, and sell, of course. Whenever I need to work with any item, I need to understand the concept of the availability. Okay, one of the menus as well, if you navigate, you have the availability to review your item by the warehouses. And guess what? We need to understand how many items we have in every warehouse, how many by unit of measure you have, how many pallets you have, and where they are located, and when are we going to have availability. This is more or less for sales operations. When we work with events, with periods for this month, for the following month, okay, for variants, for those of you who work with manufacturing or retail, and well, for all of us, in conjunction is location and unit of measure. Let's take a look. I'm going to open the location type of availability report. And in this case, you need to understand a couple of concepts. The Athens desk is currently reviewed by week. This is normally what I would do. But as well, you could change the review of the availability maybe by another type of period, right? And you can see here your date filters. It's very important because everybody, your managers, or if you are the actual warehouse clerk, or you are the person who is going to be creating reports or something like that, get the actual variables calculated by Business Central. First of all, I'm going to review my information on a weekly basis. This is most friendly for me. I don't like to see on a monthly basis. It's just too much information for this even one single item. Whatever you need to do always is to understand the first variable for any report. I have, by the way, in this report, in this matrix, my many warehouses. As you can see, I have just the description of every warehouse here. And most importantly, here I have some specific columns that are actually calculating. I have some values. The first one all the time will be the quantity on hand. This is the item that I will be then counting. We are going to count in a moment. I want to see that I have negative inventory here. You can allow not to have negative inventory. How do we do that? I need to open the inventory setup in Business Central, and I'm just going to actually prevent negative inventory. For those of you who are, this is important, please accept this, but take care of this actual setup, because at the end you need to be really organized. This means that you need to count on a cycle basis, and then later, of course, do the annual counting. You need to really review and make the actual adjustments. So this can actually work. Otherwise, it's not going to be really helpful for you. It's just going to actually just prevent from doing specific transactions. And the other restriction to use this is for those of you who work with retail, never apply. If you have a POS, never work with this, because it is most important for you to start selling no matter what. Coming back to the availability analysis, once I have the quantity on have review, even though I have negative inventory because my policy is in this demo like that, well, I need to understand how many units am I going to have that are scheduled to be received. This means that I, at some point, let's say that I have minus 16, I need to purchase. Hey, Noé, you are the inventory manager. You can ask me, do you have currently purchase order coming to the company? Because I saw that you have minus 16, that's not allowed in our company. Even though the policy is open because we have POSs, but at the end you cannot have minus 16. And you can get a report for all your items that are negative. Guess what? This is unspecified location. This is as well a very common error. So try to apply mandatory location to avoid this type of reports. Coming back to the actual analysis, I have 220 in the East warehouse, and in the main warehouse, I have 84 units. Okay, so here, well, at the end, this is based on the, guess what, this is our dot pallets. Even though you remember that SKU was specified to purchase pallets only, but these are actual units. I have 84 eaches, and in this warehouse, and 220 eaches. Now that you know that, well, I have a projected available balance. This is the second variable you need to learn, and this is, well, how many sales orders are actually created. So let's open it. Excuse me. This is how many sales orders lines are currently open. Okay. Then minus the purchase lines that are actually held, that are arriving, and the actual item ledger entry or inventory on hand. So I have 84 in this warehouse tables. Then I have been selling minus 10 units, and I'm purchasing currently 5. So that is how I'm going to be working with the projected available balance. Remember that I'm working on a weekly basis. So this is for the following week. Very important to understand this concept. Now, I'm working with the sales line. It depends. How am I actually, well, I'm selling this item, and you can review from where you are selling, okay? Now, let's review what's happening with this type of analysis, okay? And then later, we need to locate where my items are. Okay, so first of all, review the analysis, how much you have in every warehouse, the projected available balance, and then how the projected available balance was calculated. If you remember, I have a very simple formula for the item ledger entry, inventory on hand, purchase lines that are arriving, and this is not a purchase order, this is a purchase line, because in every purchase order you have plenty of items. The same happens with the sales line. I have in this case minus 10, because this will be a decrease, okay? Later we are going to analyze the value. So this formula will be used as well every time according to the analysis for week, month, quarter, year, and period, okay? Well, but here is the date filter. Well, as well, I'm going to have other concepts like gross requirements. Whenever you have demand, because you do not only have sales orders, but you have transfers, you have manufacturing, so you have demand all over the actual company. So this is the actual gross requirement. Then you have scheduled receipt concept, which is all the way around. You might have as well necessities from where you need to actually purchase an item in different areas to transfer, to complete your replenishing process, for manufacturing and as well. So these are scheduled, meaning that you have created them, but the important thing is the planned receipt. Because this is coming that if I'm analyzing the week or the future week, well, do I have purchases that will be arriving the next week? Well, this will be the planned receipt. Very, very important. So understand the gross requirement, okay? This is the demand that you have the next week, schedule receipt, okay? That you have just created, planified, how we have planified, planning orders, a planification worksheet. Here is the actual replenishing criteria and the replenishing calculations. You are going to be able to see it here. And the plan receipt is just specific only for manufacturing, because we are going to need this as a planification only for the specific requisition for manufacturing. So in conclusion, the availability procedure is going to actually take on account the quantity on hand, and the projected available balance will be a formulation from what you have purchased, what you have sold, and how many units you have on hand. So currently I have 84, but for the following week, I will be having only 79. After I have done this, I will need to present you Cortana, because in this concept, in this criteria, well, even though you know how to read the availability, and remember, these calculations are and will be all over the system when you purchase, when you transfer, when you sell. So you need to understand the concept. And at the end, we have the forecasting. This is tied to Cortana for those of you who want to actually work well with Cortana, which is an algorithm created for us. It's a service that Microsoft offers that you could actually, and we could implement in your company, that is going to help you as an assistant to give you specific suggestions about your inventory on a monthly basis. They calculated by your historical data, so we can forecast your inventory. So even though we have specific calculations, we would need to review in my assistant. I would need 298 pieces, if you can see here. Well, for this month. So why is that happening? You saw that my availability is only 84 pieces, and my projected inventory for the next week is only 79. Okay, what happened with this? And the purchaser, when he purchases, is going to be able to see the forecasting procedures, okay, calculations coming from the forecast settings that I have in a service that is coming from actually Assure. This is a service that you can actually just have. Let me just mention a little bit. It's an application where I actually created specific calculations for the webinar, and it's actually Business Central connecting to an API. So this is an app, literally, from where we are getting information. This is actually, let me see if we can, well, this diagram is important, but I cannot maximize it. Okay, just to mention it, we are going to be reading information from your company, from your database, with the actual calculations I'm showing you, and this forecasting tool is going to do it, of course, more faster than me. It's going to review the history, not only for 1 week or for 1 month, but actually from let me show you here what I'm calculating. I'm reviewing 6 historical periods from the horizon from 1 year. So I want to have specific calculations that will be for ARIMA, which is the most used type of calculation. This is an average, let's say, to not work with statistical concepts. This is going to review the average that I have per month. So it's going to more or less give me the information to have the same inventory that I have maybe at least 6 months ago, to at least review. But 6 months is maybe not good enough. A year will be great, so I can at least have the same inventory if I have the current demand that I had the previous month, the last year. So this is what this is reviewing now. So the forecast is here, so you could follow up the forecast, and here we can give you reports, and you create the actual purchase order from here to satisfy the actual necessity that you will be having in the future. And if I actually follow this idea, this is what I'm going to do in order to start making some transactions. Once you understand this first concept, I really need to satisfy my company necessities, and I'm not fast enough to run in this webinar the entire replenishment procedures. We are running out of time. So what I need to do is just create a purchase order with this suggestion. And this is what I'm going to do now. The purchase order for me now at least was created for this item and for the actual location. This is where I need my item. And if you remember the number, this was for 273. But what I'm going to do is just have a conversation with my manager or the person responsible, and I'm going to transfer this request to the purchaser. You remember that you have a send approval request functionality and create flows. Well, the flows are related to operations that will be handled as approval workflows, but with the new type of procedures with Android, where you can send to Skype, to Teams, to your Outlook, to any social media where you could receive messages. Well, flows help you with this for approval workflows or send approval requests. The typical standard is because within Business Central we have many to approve. Okay, then I'm just following this same concept from Cortana, and I'm going to actually purchase in the main warehouse. So the first transactional procedure is just having a purchase order where you're going to be requesting in two sections. Here I have the vendor name in the header or general information, and then we have a line section where I have my item. The main warehouse, well, from where I'm going to be ordering. So remember the concept of the availability, because this is where we're going to be now working. And here, as you can see, my availability will be increased. Here is where, as an inventory analyst, where I should be understanding, do my purchaser have the ability to understand how it's presented, the availability while I'm purchasing? Well, you review that Cortana is giving me suggestions, but as well, I need to understand from the purchase order now, I need to have an analysis. So for the following week, I'm going to be running out of inventory. Let's take a look at this. And here is giving me some information because I have a sales operation that is -10. So that's why Cortana is helping me, at least from now. You can review the quantity then later, but for now, at least it gave me an advice. Hey, you need something. You need something here no matter what. Okay, so at least for the next week. Right, so here in the week 39, we are going to be then supplying properly, okay? And as well, you could include planning suggestions. We have other features coming from the actual replenishment. Remember that I'm not running replenishment for this session, okay? We are learning about inventory. But remember that in your purchase order, your people needs to actually verify this, as well the availability for every warehouse, okay? And you can see here as well the same forecasting. Okay, so once I satisfy this specific, well, let me see if I can see the actual sales forecast. Or it's not, no, it's not available from the purchase. But at least you can see the inventory part, no problem. And the most important thing is that as well you have the availability section from where you're going to be able to immediately see the actual numbers that are represented for this actual warehouse. Once I have done it, the two things that we all the time do is just immediately send to the vendor. This is, remember, it's a purchase order, and we have other procedures related to this, okay? But for now, regarding to inventory, I need to do two specific things. First of all, update the 200 pieces in the main warehouse. I need them to transfer and update and understand the value, because currently I'm having $156,000 US that I will be paying. So this will be the value of this purchase. And then later, well, this will be only one layer for the FIFO functionality. For now, I'm just going to then pause, and I'm going to receive an invoice, okay? Very good. Once this is done, oh, this is asking me for a document that is called vendor invoice number, because at the end, the AP department is going to pay for this actual purchase, but they need the vendor invoice, okay? When it arrives, it has a number that is tied to a purchase. So purchase order. So this is what I'm just filling now. That number is related to that, and I'm going to be receiving these 200 units. After that, well, the invoice is created because here is the value, and well, this is as well for my same item. After I have done this, I need to transfer the item, okay? Remember that I told you that I created an SKU. Now I'm going to specify the transfer route. The transfer route is then applied for me, because the transfer route is a matrix where I'm going to tell, hey, I know that I have inventory currently in my main warehouse, but I have other warehouses in my company, the East, the West, the WMS with different type of classifications. But, well, how do I actually going to transfer from one warehouse to another? Let's try to give an example. So for me to the East warehouse, I will be transferring in using my own trucks. So to make measurements, I'm going to use the own logistics, okay? So that's fine. But let's see what happens if I move from the main warehouse to the east one, okay? I'm going to use outsourced logistics. So for outsourced logistics, I'm going to use FedEx, okay? And FedEx normally provides two types of services, the urgent, the medium, the standard that, well, the urgent will be for the next day. The next day, I'm going to be receiving my package for 1 day shipping time. Remember that we require sometimes calculations. Well, they are available. And then we have the standard delivery that will be at least 2 days. And this will be the least time. So this is a transit code. Okay, so from the, once again, in this matrix, we have a relationship in the columns for the my warehouses to cross. Let's give an example with this, please. From the main warehouse, I'm going to be moving then to the east location using my own logistics. That's fine. But then later, why not? If I want to move from the main to the west location, well, I need to specify the transit code will be, I don't know, outsourced logistics. I need to use now DHL, and the time will be overnight. So DHL offer transfers in the night, okay? So you can have the possibility to use your own logistics or the actual providers, and Business Central can connect to those providers so you can locate any package. So talking about availability, what I'm going to do first is transfer, then sell, and then look for where my package is. For me now, I'm just going to create a transfer order. This is a very simple transaction. The transfer order is helping me to move inventory without affecting the value of my inventory in my company. The value transaction will be zero. It's not like the purchase order where I'm increasing increasing the units, but as well increasing value. So this means that it's an expense. In this case, I'm going to be transferring from the main to the east warehouse the same item. That is the item desk. You need to input the item number and the quantity, and it will be transferring only 10 units. Okay, and this is only that you will be needing. As you can see, there is no value related to this because this is not affecting the value in my company. For me, then I'm going to then just immediately pause. And here for a transfer order, we have only 2 steps. If we don't have WMS, we do only have ship and receive a concept. So the first step is just to ship. And here I'm going to click on OK after selecting that. And here I have the quantity shipped. From the main warehouse, then a person picked the 10 units and they have currently in a specific, how do I transfer? Well, this is from own logistics, okay? Very well. This is a transit code, and if I later take a look at the availability, I'm gonna check that in my item, I currently have 10 units that are in transit. Okay, let's review how it looks and reviewing another availability report from the same item card. Of course, we have dozens of reports for this, so we can customize, why not Power BI to try to understand the same information, but you need to understand the concepts and the variables behind all of the ideas that we are presenting. So I'm going to once again review the availability, but in this case, we will be by, let's say, the item by location. Okay, so the same idea is a report for all my items. So I can see all my items, the universe, the catalog in the specific different locations, but as well, you could actually show items in transit. So if I want to actually do that, I'm just gonna select this. And from what I can see here, I have a Whirlpool microwave that is transported currently in my own logistics, okay? And if I just continue reviewing, well, I might be able to see other items that will be that are being transferred, like the admin desk is as well being transferred in our logistics. So currently I don't see items being transferred by FedEx or anything, so we can follow a package to know when it's going to arrive. But from here, I'm going to be able to see, okay, I want to know how many I have in transit because I need to maybe review the logistics and I later would like to review some other report creation with my BI activities. I have actually some BI reports for you, but I have here the transfer, okay? The transfer receipts, the transfer shipments, everything that is currently on transit will be then shown for you. So that's another way to understand your availability. Remember that you have physical on-hand inventory and as well you have in transit. Coming back to complete the transfer order, you know that I have in transit inventory because I only shipped the item, but I haven't received it yet. So the quantity to receive is currently 10. Okay, so from here, I need to create a receipt date calculated for according to the calculations in Business Central for the time that I require. I will be receiving this item on after 2 days after the shipment was created. So you could actually tie and configure the time in every route so you can understand the time. Okay, so that's it basically, nothing else, just showing basic variables. Okay, and I'm going to now receive it. After you have transferred the item, well, the table is not anymore in the main warehouse. So I'm going to be able to then, I don't know, make a sales operation. Similarly to a purchase order, I'm going to then now create a sales order to affect the actual value. But remember, very, very important. Let me see. Okay. Very, very important. Every time I make a sales operation, I'm going to be decreasing the value of the item, right? So we're going to be doing some other calculations like the cost of goods sold, calculating my profit after the sales operation. Very well. So according to the demo, the unit price is 1,000 and here is the total for the sales. You could now send it from here, or by the way, we have a job that can send all the invoices to your customers automatically. So email confirmation or print it or attach an email as a PDF once you are sure about a specific order will be sent to a customer, send order confirmation or a pro forma invoice. Okay, at this stage, well, what we need to do is just to review everything about the sales operation, the customer, and here, guess what? Once again, we have the so-called item availability, but now we have 259. But let's take a look. The available inventory is 274. Okay, so the available inventory, remember the calculations that we showed before, but the item availability is a little bit less, meaning that, well, the available inventory will be calculated because we have purchase orders that are also arriving. So I have maybe other purchase orders that will be arriving, so I don't care about this item currently, but as well the real inventory on hand. So you can actually tell to your salespeople, will be shown in the item availability, and they can see and they can click on the sales order that the actual items that you are going to be having, well, you're going to be reviewing now. Let's say normally the salespeople is going to be reviewing by month or something like that. So the idea is that the inventory will be, let me recalculate some procedures. Okay, thank you. So I have the availability and the forecast inventory. Remember, the Cortana is all over the place and we can follow up some ideas. So the projected available inventory for August, because normally as a salesperson, you're going to review at least for the month. Sometimes by day, yeah, could be. It's as well ideal to review with all the variables that are available, no matter what. for your customers because they will be asking you anything. I want to, let's sell I want to purchase from you in September, not today. So you're going to be reviewing the availability. And as well, the forecasted projected inventory. Remember that Cortana is helping us as well to follow up some ideas. So it's helping you all over there now, okay? So in the purchase, in the sales side, or whatever. So once again, you can review all your calculations that I have explained, but most importantly, for the sales operation, the projected available balance. The forecast is not as well very important now. You only want to see if you have the inventory or not, basically. Okay, or otherwise you could actually review the schedule you receive if you don't have enough units, because from the actual sales order you could actually order and a purchase. Okay, but that's some procedures for the sales operation. For me, this is everything about availability, at least the basics. And what I'm going to do is just now ship. Oh, one thing that I was mentioning was the packages. So let me see, shipping and billing, invoice details, show more. Why not to use a shipment method? I'm going to make a change. Just the customer is quite picky. Then I will use another super fast delivery type. Of course, it will have another cost, right? So I'm going to use now a FedEx, just as an example. And I'm going to use the next day. This is urgent. So tomorrow I'm promising to have an item. Okay, and well, I'm ordering. At this point, you will need to access to your provider to create a package. To the website of FedEx website, and I will need just to get the actual package number and input here in the package tracking number. Okay, because this needs to be urgent. Remember that. So it's not only about the internal calculations. Once that is done, we can just release the actual sales order. We have different statuses. Means releases that the customer actually wanted this, and I'm just releasing it for internal procedures in my warehouse to ship these items. But in this case, to make it faster, I'm going to be able to create a shipment and an invoice, or both at the same time. And this is what I'm going to do now. I'm just going to ship and invoice the item. Very well. Once that is just created, the posted sales invoice is here, and if I want to actually just review the information, I just need to review and track. Let me see, where's the function? I forgot a long time ago. Invoice, correct, 0.7, correct. 1 second, please. To be able to track a package, posted sales invoices. Let me see from the actual archive. Invoice, correct. I want to see this. Okay. I think that I forgot to attach the track package actual function. Okay, I'm not going to be able to track it now, but the concept is here. We are going to need just to verify later. I can send you the function. This is available in Business Central, not in Vision, by the way. We just need to verify just to actually manage this properly. Well, here in the demo, I just will need to attach that information to be able to track But anyway, what I'm going to do is just to maybe look for the function that would be in another area. Let's see. Okay, before we just continue with the last part of the webinar, I just need to review, and I haven't added here in the sales order because it's really cool. Actually, it's really cool to have it in the sales order, sales invoices, just to track your packages. But for me, let's try to make a tweak just to review the availability. Well, the availability for the current projected available balance, well, I have a sales and a sales line of minus 25, the items that I have been just selling. And here, item tracking lines from the main warehouse. I would like to see here, navigate. Okay, it's not available neither here and there. Okay, sorry for that. I don't have enough time just to follow the function to track my package, but we will be able with the package just to open immediately from here the actual vendor website to see and just to track the actual service that they provide in the map to know where the package is, so we can then later tell to our customers. Remember that as well, that is availability. But in this moment, I don't have the function in my menu, so I will need to customize it. So sorry for that. It's not present in the demo. I wanted to show it to you. So we have now shown the availability identifiers. We have shown how to purchase, sale, how to review some specific variables that are being calculated. But at the end, you always need to actually know, calculate by yourself, and make adjustments. How do we do that? Okay, this is just give me a 5 minutes procedure just to finalize the actual transactions. The first one is the physical inventory journal. The physical inventory journal is where we actually count the inventory. So you know the availability, the purchase, you know that you have a network in your company, you know you have SKUs, barcodes, blah, blah, blah. Here is where we actually are going to get that information because different items, different serial numbers, lot numbers, etc. So the first thing is that in this physical inventory journal, we have the possibility to calculate the actual inventory that we have in our company. We just need to specify two types of things. We sometimes have cycle count, and the first function that you will need to review in the physical inventory journal is the cycle counting. So two functions once again, the calculate inventory. So this is just going to populate my screen with just the inventory that I have in the different warehouses to know the physical quantity or inventory on hand. And calculate counting period will be helping me just to tell me, hey, you have some items that you calculate on a cycle basis, maybe on a weekly or a month basis, quarter basis, right? So here I have the counting, next counting that I should, from what I should actually be counting, and next counting date. So here I actually should have counted some items since June, since February, and since June. All right, so you can see this information. You should be, and we should be populating now specifically this the first type of physical count we do is a cycle count. Okay, so I'm here using the function business central is going to tell me, hey, you have items that are normal, you have items that you need to count very fast, maybe on a monthly basis, and some others that are just slow. Maybe I just count them once a week, a year or something like that. So if I click on OK, this is going to populate everything for me according to the cycle count. So it's only provide me first the items that I need to calculate. Very well. So, well, just calculating this, the new data that I need to actually use, and as well the SKU can be seen here. Okay, so here the next calculation date, so you can print this, open in Excel as well, and you can review which items you need to actually start counting for this period. We have this on a list for you. And here, once we have this, you can as well come in here and actually we can work seamlessly. Okay, so you can see your items, the location code, the physical counting dates. Okay, from here you could actually, why not start filter? Okay, I want to see the items only for January or for March or for July. This is strongly recommended to do through Excel because cycle counting is not an easy procedure. You cannot just come and start counting everything just like this in one single list because it could be quite cumbersome. So review this list and start counting. And the other procedure will be the calculate inventory. The calculate inventory is just going to review the actual quantity that I have in my company, and then I will be then just adding the actual items to this specific form where I'm going to have a list of items that need to be counted for the specific posting date. This is very important. This will be for today because we're going to be affecting then the physical quantity until today. If we review the availability, or your people review the availability after your count, well, we'll be including the new numbers. That how we do it? Well, in every specific line we have positive and negative adjustment. This is very important for your count. Okay, well, for now it's everything positive, but in this case I have the item number and the description of the item so you can locate it easily. Okay, as well we have variables or SKUs that you could include if necessary. Then the main warehouse. But most importantly here for this form is the quantity that is being calculated. The quantity calculated by the system presented for you. Then the physical inventory is where you will be then counting and inputting in these editable rows, editable fields, then the actual units that you count. So here I will need to make some tweaks because for some reason some items are different. Maybe I have just lost some items, or then I found some items once in a while as well. And well, very important, the value will be according to the actual quantities for my actual month. Now, once that is actually registered or presented for you, you will need to actually just print it. Okay, so you will need to specify and deliver to the actual warehouse clerk this form by printing this actual form, providing it to the clerk, and you can start counting or use a tablet connected to a scanner from where you're going to be then just able to actually input the information from the count. You can as well filter for warehouse by warehouse. So my items is here and the quantity that I will be counting will be here. All right, nothing else. It's very, very easy actually to do so. So you could have it here in a tablet or in a printed form like I'm showing, and so on. Or with security, we can create something without the calculated column, okay? So the warehouse clerk can input in a tablet with a scanner only without seeing this column for quantity calculated. After we count, we just create and post this journal, okay? So that will be updating the entire physical quantity and as well the availability for your actual calculations, okay? So once we understand all of this, this first transaction, the second one will be the transaction to start reclassifying as well, very, very important. and the valuation, okay? Let me go with the valuation. That will be more important because every warehouse has different values, because you are in some warehouses receiving, but then you input freight cost, as well custom cost, then insurance, and in every location you have, and you might have different values. So you need to at least be able to provide as warehouse clerk evaluation. So evaluation of your inventory. If you have a work in progress or manufacturing, you will need an inventory valuation for WIP or work in progress. That is different from the actual value for a finished products, okay? So for finished product, we need to look for the valuation for the report that is called inventory valuation. Okay, from this perspective, a specific date, let's say I need to specify an origin date for my calculations, I don't know, maybe for January this year. And by breakdown by location could be, I need to see the value of my actual items, okay? You need to provide, you need to review once in a while, and your accountant is going to ask you for that. It's very important that you understand the basic concept as the inventory manager, okay? For us, well, I need to understand that the item that I presented to you before, well, has a specific inventory value. You remember that? So the actual value that I will be having will be according to the unit of measure and the actual location. Very important. So for now, the remaining quantity that I have will be 4. Then the unit cost will be here, and the inventory value that I will be checking will be here. Okay, let me explain how this then is divided. Okay, all of your inventory at the end will be having a specific value. Hopefully it's not negative, otherwise you will be having an issue that you will need to correct. Very, very important, because your accountant is going to ask you on a monthly basis that he's going to make the so-called monthly closing procedures, okay, or end of the month procedures. For him, it's very important that you review your inventory value before doing anything else. You need to count, you need to review your adjustments that you don't have negative inventory. And you need to review sometimes per location that all your items, at least physical inventory, is okay, and the actual value is not actually a work. You don't have a unit cost that is wrong. Let's say the unit cost will be the average of all the transactions. So let's try to make the example that I was explaining to review what happened here with the inventory valuation. Where is the item we were purchasing? Here is the admin desk. Okay. Currently, it has a unit cost of 780. Okay, that's the value of this item. Okay. Now, what I am required to understand is that the unit cost will be, because I have many purchases through the month that have, remember, your vendors are always different unit cost. Normally, they increase the value of the item. So we use what we call the FIFO functionality, but because we are going to be selling the first items that we purchase. So we have the specific profit. Then the vendor increases the value when you purchase, and then by specific theoretical methodology, you will be having, if you have an increasing cost, well, your profit will be less until you update the sales price, right? So for those different layers of cost and profit that you have, you will be having an average at the end. At the end, we just need a value, period. So how much and what is the actual cost of the admin desk? So that will be not only because of one purchase or the last purchase, remember that, but the actual average of the specific period, or in this case, every month, because we normally work with the accounting procedures. So your accountant is going to ask you, but you need, and your responsibility is to review the unit cost that is not exaggerated because an anomaly or a wrong transaction that you posted, maybe you put the wrong currency in a purchase, or maybe you added a zero by mistake. So the unit cost needs to be reviewed item by item, at least once in a month, or just in order to close it, because this is the value that will be reflected for the reports, and you don't want to see an exaggerated value in the following reports. First of all, in finance, because that will be representing more depth for your company. In the real audit for the accountants, they actually see this. So it's better to see from the very beginning. Even it could be quite cumbersome to review item by item, warehouse by warehouse. But as long as you don't see numbers that are completely wrong, like in this case, the unit cost is zero. Why? Okay, just giving you an example. We cannot have items that which current value is zero. That's a mistake. Or either I haven't purchased an item, I just created it and I never worked with it, or something is completely wrong, because from my perspective, I have been working with this item. I would need to review the availability, review how much I have in hand, and review why then later my value is zero. Okay, and just to finalize, I have many other errors. You can have zeros or increased cost, unit cost value. That will be not the actual the related value for the unit cost, that will be the average, okay? That could vary by maybe cents or maybe one single unit of your currency, but not too much, okay? Pay attention to the inventory valuation. This is a very simple example, just to understand, because there's more complexity when it comes to cost, okay? But at the end, what I need is just as well to specify how do I make, then what could I do if something is wrong? Maybe one of my items was not okay. I posted a purchase order with an incorrect currency, incorrect unit of measures. That's why my calculations are not correct. So for that and to make corrections, we use two types of journals. The first is the item journal, the item reclassification journal that we have here. From my perspective, I know that I committed a mistake. I reviewed the valuation, and as well, or maybe a purchaser is telling me, hey, I committed a mistake, sorry. I was in a hurry, the warehouse clerk was in a hurry, but we have the inventory now, but at the end, we just reviewed that I have a transaction that is wrong. Okay, in the item reclassification journal, you would need to input the actual item that maybe you know is incorrect, and review the warehouse where the transaction was actually posted. Very important, the location code once again. And from here, I'm going to be able to use the applies to entry function. From here, I'm going to be able to review all the transactions that were posted in this warehouse for this item. So that's why it's as well very important to understand the units, the unit of measure, everything that we reviewed before, the SKU. So guess what? You remember that we did a purchase transaction to make an example, but the person who was actually doing Noé, the purchaser, the warehouse clerk, and the administrator of the business central forgot to make the most basic transaction. We need cost. So the only thing that I will need to do in the reclassification journal is that I just would need to input a, let me see what's going on here. Sorry, this is not a purchase. This is because the value is zero because it is a transfer. It's a transfer. I have a bug here that is telling me that this is a purchase at this point, but it was registered as a transfer order, which is not correct. We know that we did a purchase actually. So anyway, this is just a bug in my demo. This doesn't happen actually in the regular environments. Let's try to pick another item. Or maybe my bug is coming through an error in Azure. Let me just try to pick meanwhile another type of item. that has transactions because we need to review and reclassify, at least for you to see how this works. Some items. Object source. Let me see. Windshield. Sorry for that bug. I never explained. I haven't actually experienced that type of issue. Just we need to review what happened. Okay. Sites will be better. Okay. Lecture entries. Okay. Okay, here are my specific transactions. I have plenty of transactions here. Why am I missing these two here? Okay. What am I going to do is just a simple trick here, just to find more transactions. Okay. What am I going to do, even though not all my transactions are shown here, okay, one purchase was done to buy 200 units, but I know that it was completely wrong. My cost is not okay, or the unit of measure is wrong. Look at this. And that's it. So for me, I'm just going to update the 200 units because I would need just to make a correction for this transaction. Well, from here in the main warehouse, the 200 units related to the actual transaction for the purchase that I did today, not in the 22, but in the 24 of September. Then this transaction actually requires some tweaks here for me to actually work. And let's say that we have another unit to measure. Let's see. So instead of pieces, I was buying pallets, something like that. Okay, very simple. But instead of 20, I will be buying 20 pallets. That will be, believe me, changing the entire cost just by changing the unit of measure. Nevertheless, these are not the only type of transaction that I could correct. Let me just add some other fields. You can add any other field, like why not to correct the unit cost, the indirect cost, the variant, the bin code. Well, I don't know, you could have plenty of different transactions. Okay, so just to verify the unit cost that was 0 before for this transaction. Oh, instead of changing the unit of measure, because I don't actually want to change too much the value, then I will be having pieces. But the because to this actual customer, I was just selling, but I never inputted the purchase cost. So how am I going to calculate the profit later in my reports? Okay, so we are just selecting one specific transaction, but we need to input the actual unit cost from the negotiation. So I need to ask to the purchaser, okay, that's fine, but what was the final cost that was negotiated when you purchased this 200? So before was 0, now is 1,000. And so on. So you can continue to make more corrections of unit of measures, on the departments or dimensions that we have, nothing else. Even you could change the serial number and some other features. For now, the only thing you will need to do is just pass your actual transaction of the location. Very well. You would need to just make the actual operation into did I transfer this in? Yes, I transferred that. You will need to actually make your changes in the fields that you need in this case. So at the end, we will be finishing with the actual reclassification, in this case of the cost. And at the end, once we get to know and understand the valuation and some of the basic when it comes to inventory, you will need to understand the last thing when it comes to the unit cost. If I open the item card, I'm gonna be able to review all the transactions that we have just done. Okay, so the idea here is that you're going to be able to see the, first of all, the quantity of item ledger entries that are going to specify you if you make sales or transfers or purchase orders and so on, okay? All the movement that we have, okay? All of that, okay? And after that, then I need to review the costing, and currently we have a unit cost of 780.7. Meaning that if for me, I have different transactions that have different values for increases, and for every transaction where you can see the quantity, you're going to have a specific unit cost. So this is very, very important for all our transactions, because what we want is to understand either what is the unit cost in every transaction, and because from here, well, if you reclassify, let's say, one unit cost and you change the increase, the first purchase from 780, and either you later increase or decrease the cost by using the reclassification journal or something like that, well, remember that all the costs will be calculated in cascade. This is according to the FIFO. So if you affect the first purchase value, your profit will be affected as well. So as well, the inventory value for January 2018. So we have different transactions that apply to the first month of the year 2018. So if you want to get the actual value of this period for your item, that will be in your inventory valuation. So if you want to understand why your inventory valuation report is presenting one specific figure, open your item card and review the transactions that you have for that period and calculate the average, weighted average with their unit cost and the quantity. So it's a formulation. Remember, the weighted average is going to give me for every period, according to the last unit cost, the actual value that will be presented for the accounting. So it's very important. I don't want to see in the unit cost a raw value, maybe one decimal place or something like that, but no by thousands. That could happen, and that has happened even to consultants when we put the wrong number, wrong currency, or wrong unit of measure. So for us, it will be very important to try to understand how the actual concept of the valuation of your inventory works. With this, we are finalizing the actual webinar from today. It has taken a little because inventory is a very, very big topic. I could go with costing even in another entire webinar, because I know that, well, maybe not for inventory people, but for accounting people, the actual valuation is super important. And we need to understand how we close on a monthly basis, right? Our figures, specifically inventory costs, are the most complicated one. But at least you have a hint of what we do here, how inventory is being controlled on the global scope of your company, and then tied to your availability, to the location, and to the specific period. So you can see the quantities and the value. That's all for today. If you have questions, please let me know. We're gonna have more webinars on next Thursday, I believe. Next week I'm gonna have two webinars. I'm not sure, but for now this will be all. Thank you very much for your time. Hopefully it's not too much information. And if you need all this information, we can provide you the videos, and as well we can provide you with our actual PowerPoint presentation, so you can have a hint of how what was presented before going to the video, because the videos are 1 hour and a half sometimes. But here in every PowerPoint, you're going to be able to see the agenda in a fast way, so you can then continue to understand in the video what you're going to be able to learn if you open the video. So thank you very much. I don't see questions from today. Here is just the topics that I have just explained in this session. So we review the availability, the item identifiers and barcodes, physical count, adjustments, inventory valuation, and item reclassification. So basically it's just in a general way. Hopefully you're getting to understand more about inventory. And if you need, and if you have more doubts about your requirements, of course, yes, there's plenty more about this for your POS, for the trucks, for logistics, for those of you who have field services. Well, all the way we have different type of inventory treatments, but this is the foundation. So thank you very much for your time, and see you next week. Have a great day.